Carson,
Dominique Spence,
and Raven Castleberry.
and we are the Virgos in EDM 310 at the University of South Alabama. Today we are going to explore the exemplary teaching career of Mr. Rafe Esquith, a graduate of UCLA, winner of numerous national awards and medals, and prolific author of books such as Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire and There Are No Shortcuts. Come with us today as we climb into our time machine and rewind to the early 1980s when our author first began his teaching journey and embarked on his epic transition from novice educator to master mentor. He delineates his struggles and changing goals, disappointments and accomplishments, and works with a consortium of students who have touched his life and remain a continual inspiration of today's book, There Are No Shortcuts. Okay, let's go! Here we are in 1982 as we observe a young Rafe Esquith, student teacher in UCLA's Graduate School of Education program. A negative experience with the school principal almost ended his career before it began. Planning a field trip for a class of students to a Shakespeare play on a Saturday after 2 months' preparation, Esquith receives a note strictly forbidding the field trip. Angry, he fights back, and it nearly cost him his career. He had to repeat his student teaching from the beginning and said about the incident, "I had survived my first scare by allowing the powers that be to force me to do exactly what they wanted. I learned quickly that I was in no position to talk back to principals." Unfortunately, he also learned that in far too many classrooms, the children's education is not the main objective. Now, let's fast forward to his first year of teaching. Although he wanted to teach at a school in an economically disadvantaged neighborhood, he got a job teaching at a middle-class school with middle-class parents and values. Referring to this school as Camelot, he planned a field trip as a culmination of his students' study of Shakespeare and a stay at a nice hotel. A particular student's mediocre reaction about the field trip got our author thinking about his purpose for teaching. As he observed co-workers at his school, he realized the kids were practically on autopilot, and they seemed content to teach the path of least resistance. As he began to lose sleep and carried knots in his stomach, Esquith learned that teachers systematically encouraged a form of cheating on standardized tests to encourage 100% scores, inflating them to build the school's reputation in the community. Embracing the philosophy of his hero, Huckleberry Finn, he began changing his educational tactics, supplying texts of his own choosing to inspire students, and using his lunch break to teach guitar and other instruments. He soon made the decision that he would not be happy living a life to please others, but that he needed a life to help others. Soon he was approached by the principal of an inner-city school who had heard him referred to as difficult to control, offering him a teaching position. The school was referred to as the Jungle due to its overcrowded student population, low instance of English as a first language, and test scores so low that practically no student tested at grade level. Here, our teacher and author begins to find meaning and purpose in his teaching. As he says in his book, "I had left the perfect school and the perfect situation to go to a place where I have often failed, been hurt, and been downright miserable. But I never have regretted avoiding the path of least resistance."
In Chapter 2, after being asked by a female teacher why he had such passion and commitment to his students, Esquith's reply was, one day he would like to walk down the street and people would say, "Hey, there goes Rafe, the best teacher there ever was." When the teacher replied with "Teaching is basically about you and not your students," Rafe was dumbfounded. He knew then and there he would have to find a new role model besides Roy Hobbs, a character from Bernard Malamud's novel, The Natural. Every teacher should have a reason on what their students will know when they leave their classroom. It should be their mission and their purpose, or else they will not have been in this field. Esquith then, after talks about that it takes years of success and failure for teachers to know exactly what their mission is. By doing so, you must take your instructions to a higher level in order to even think of what you want to accomplish. Creating his mission is to help students become better problem solvers by making them think farther than just arithmetics. Rafe then goes on to explain why teaching is so difficult. He states that society has created a fast food learning system by making everything instant. Kids aren't really learning due to society lying to them, which is making it harder for reality to set in. Esquith goes on by saying the class pre-algebra is bogus. We should really tell the kids that this class really means arithmetic for students who are behind. Esquith makes a good point, but it should not apply to all students due to the fact that everyone doesn't learn on the same level. One day, while studying the Declaration of Independence, it hit Rafe that many young people nowadays want a good life, liberty, and to be happy, but the majority do not want to work for it. Thinking of an answer to this problem, Esquith took his class to see Lynn Harrell, a cellist, in concert. After the concert, a student asked Harrell how he makes music that's so beautiful. Harrell's response was there are no shortcuts. Rafe knew that night that Harrell gave him the answer to his problem. 2 days later, after the concert, Esquith's students arrived to class to meet a banner that read, "There are no shortcuts." His students had a new perspective of learning by starting class at 6 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. They knew that life wasn't fair, but they not only rejected the statistics, but created one of their own. Starting school early created a mental toughness that they believed nothing too hard for them.
Now fast forwarding into the future. While working in the jungle, Rafe Esquith realizes that schools fail to help gifted students develop their abilities. These students are often discouraged from showing what they can accomplish. Eddie from El Salvador has an incredible aptitude for mathematics. On a Monday, he is brought before the school to be recognized for all of his extraordinary accomplishments. Later, he is comforted by Rafe Esquith after being beaten for his victory by other students. Esquith reminds us that teachers must do what's in the best interest of the student, and if it means sending them to another classroom, let them fly. One teacher makes excuses at a meeting with the GATE community as to why she feels Billy, a gifted student, should stay in her class. She says he is her best helper and sparks her classroom. Just like children with learning disabilities, GATE children need individualized lesson plans, and exposure is important for these students. At home, parents play a crucial role in promoting a gifted child's happiness. Boasting about their accomplishments can put the child under pressure. Balance is the key. Outstanding ability does not promise their child happiness, more success, or better relationships. Gifted programs need to make sure humility is valued. He quotes Marva Collins as saying, "I will is more important than IQ." One of his 5th grade students, Joanne, is the prime example of a gifted, humble child. She helps him learn to teach music to his class after his failing attempt to do so alone. She invites him to her home, where he is amazed to find out she has hundreds of trophies, from music to swim competitions. He realizes that her father praises her for her victories and losses, which is where she learns her humility and compassion for others.
In the epilogue titled I'm Still Standing, Rafe talks about his present year at the jungle. At arrival, he had a memo in his box where he found that his fellow employees had voted at a meeting that a Xerox machine was the most important thing after the school nurse for the school. After having the song his class was practicing to sing for the Multicultural Day program, Rafe thought his day was going downhill. With the help of 2 students helping him clean the classroom, he sat back and listened to their conversation. Hearing Danny getting rejected by Karen, Rafe asked her, how did she get so smart, and her reply was, because you're my teacher. Leaving Rafe with those words let Esquith know that his next years will be a breeze.
All right, we find ourselves back at the present, having observed the life and epic journey of one of today's exemplar educators. He states his purpose for writing, "There are no shortcuts," to remind readers of what public education can be, to give hope to young teachers who would like to run against the wind but are afraid of the consequences, and asserts that poverty, greed, and incompetent teachers